Welcome back, everybody. So glad you could be with me here today. Walter here at the workbench with a bunch of measuring devices. So, locally, we just had our county fair. And when I visited on Senior Citizen Day, why Senior Citizens Day? We get in free, cheap. They were giving away these little rulers. So I grabbed one. Not that I needed it, but I grabbed one out of curiosity because can you see 12 and a bit extra? I don't know why it's 12 and a bit extra. It's 12 and a half, according to the tape measure. So this got me to thinking how many things we have with tick marks on it and numbers, whether they be fractional, imperial, decimal, metric, doesn't matter. We have all of these ways to measure things, and we still get it wrong some of the time. So, growing up, we all had these in school, right? And some of us grew up in schools where if you didn't behave, you got smacked. But in college, I learned my drafting on what's called a triangle rule. This is an architect's, and this is older than me, so this one came before my college days. But this has scales of, let's see, it has the natural scale of 1 inch. It's got quarter, half, 3/16. It has got 3/32, 3/4, inch and a half, and 1/8. So depending on how big your project is and how big of a sheet of paper you're drawing on, you would use what's called a scale. All right. So if I wanted to draw this building, I would bring it down to scale. Typical scale could be 1/4 inch equals a foot. Sometimes you want to do something a little larger or more detailed, you do inch equals a foot, or you can go to inch and a half equals a foot. In fact, I have 3 inches equals a foot. So for more detailed work, you use larger scale. So this is an architect's. They make engineers versions, which are in decimal, and I'm sure there are metric versions. But then, what about this? The old-fashioned carpenter's folding rule. How many of you have one of these? Brass end. They go from 1 to 72. So this is a 6 foot. And this one has the sliding end for when you are working between a fixed point and another fixed point. You would just slide that out, hold it, and then you've got your dimension. So I know many of us as youth would play with the ones that our dad had, and we'd do like little stick figures and stuff. And eventually you play around with them too much and you pull them apart, you break them. Tell me about it. Not only did I break a few, my boys broke a few. And I believe I've broken some in my adult life as well. But this carpenter pants have a space, a pocket, specifically for a 6 foot folding rule. You might get an 8 foot in there, but definitely a 6. I think I have an 8. Yes, I do. Okay. 96 inches. And this one's almost brand spanking new. So there's those. Then, of course, there's the venerable tape measure of all different lengths and sizes and styles and types. And they're designed to hook over the end of a piece of a wood. And this little piece on the end slides in and out. And that's not broken. That's designed that way because if you're measuring into something, it gives you the proper measurement. And if you're measuring the length of something, it gives you the proper measurement. It's designed that way. And then, of course, we have calipers and all sorts of scientific dividers and calipers and micrometers and all that, as well as our squares, all have some form of registered measurement on it. But do we need any of that? The answer is no. We can push all that away. Why? From your elbow to the tip of your hand is a measurement. The width of your palm is a measurement. The thickness of your thumb, the thickness of your finger, the thickness of your pinky. These are all measurements you can use in your space doing your tasks. Now, could you do it using someone else's body measurements? The answer is no. But back in the day, they utilized something called the cubit, which is from here to here, as a standard. And for the most part, a cubit was considered 18 inches. All right? So that's what a cubit was. And so you can take and mark out right to here. All right, let's do it this way. That would be a cubit, right to there. Make a mark there or cut it there, and that can become your basis for construction. Then you can take a piece of string, you can take a pair of dividers, and you can divide, now let's just use this whole length here. You can divide this up into half. Then you can divide those halves into half. So then you have quarters and so on and so forth. So you can create your own measuring system. Trouble comes, your system won't fit my system. My system won't fit someone else's system. So then there's also this piece of wood. I didn't dimension this any specific size. I just dimensioned it until it was parallel and square and true. So I can use this and say, okay, that's my unit 1 or 1 inch. And my thumb is about 1 inch, so it's a little narrower than 1 inch, but for an average person, that might be about 1 inch. What is it really? It's 1/64th under 1 inch. So your eye is far more accurate than any other tool. You can tell if something's straight, you can tell if something is approximately a certain dimension. Then comes the big question, well, what measurements do we use to make something look right? Well, it's called the golden mean or the golden rule. And there is a number associated with it, and I used to remember it. And I'm going to throw a number out, and it's probably wrong, but I think it's 1.618, or it's 1.623. I forget. I will leave it down in the description box. So you develop ratios. The height is either going to be 1.6 times the width, or it's going to be the width is going to be 1.6 times the height. You know, that you end up with a ratio. So you can use 2 to 3, you can use 3 to 5, any sort of ratio that is pleasing to the eye. Okay? And then you build from there. You can build up, and as long as you're using that proportion and you're using your eye and it looks right, it will be right. What dimension it is, how many ticks on a ruler, doesn't matter. Okay? I don't care if a cabinet is 22 inches wide, 22 and a half inches wide, or 32 inches wide, as long as the height is within proportion to the width, and the width is in proportion to the depth. Follow me? So let me know. And oh yeah, by the way, then there's this little ruler. Yeah, the David Charlesworth ruler. Anybody need one? I've got a bunch of them. That's about it for today. I'm still debating what to do about the wood finishing test, because I'm looking around at what I have and what wasn't working and what might work, or should I scrap it all and just get myself some brand new finish? That's about it for today. No shavings. Sorry. Head out to your shop. Go see how many rulers and measuring devices you have, and what do you rely on? Or do you rely on the eye? Like, subscribe, and share. Walter out.